The Celebrity Series of Boston plans a special series of concerts over the next year honoring the cello and its most famous global ambassador, Pablo Casals. The series will be a partnership with several artists and organizations with performances in the neighborhoods and a range of works from Latin, jazz, and classical repertoire. To tell us about the series are the Associate Director of Community Engagement for the series, Robin Baker, and one of the performers, Fabiola Mendez, from the Fabiola Mendez Trio. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
I want to start with Robin about the idea for this. It seemed a bit improbable at first, how you get a whole series out of one musician, but what's so special about Pablo Casals?
Pablo Casals was very instrumental in helping to establish the symphony orchestra and the conservatory when he began his festivals in the late 1950s. He basically brought musicians over, but he said, no, Puerto Rico has to have their own training program and a professional symphony orchestra. I can't keep bringing people over here. So he really instituted a cultural, I don't want to say renaissance, but a rebirth of bringing professionalism and classical music and the folk traditions together. So I feel like the Puerto Rican residents are very grateful for his presence.
Fabiola, I know you're much too young to have been in the presence of Pablo Casals, but when you were growing up, what was it like for you as far as opportunities to advance in music and develop your talent?
It was a blessing. I mean, thanks to all he did, generations of musicians in the island are able to get the education in music that without the conservatory and without having access to seeing an orchestra live every weekend, we wouldn't be able to have that.
Right. Robin, I mean, Casals, he opened up new possibilities for the cello to engage audiences, but he was also a champion of human rights. He was exiled from Spain after the fascists took over in the 1930s. So what about that aspect of his career?
His mother was Puerto Rican, and he had always wanted her to come back to Puerto Rico, but she passed away before that happened. So during the Franco regime, he decided to move there, and he had also a new wife who was Puerto Rican, so I believe. So he really wanted to, he lived there for, I believe, at least 10 years.
Fabiola, you're a part of the string tradition. You play a different instrument. It's called the Cuatro.
That's right.
What about the history of that instrument?
So the Puerto Rican Cuatro is the national instrument of Puerto Rico, and it basically was developed by the Jibaros, which are the countryside men and women in the island, as a way of having their own way of expressing music, right? They didn't have the money to afford buying violins or guitars or vihuelas or all these instruments that they saw the colonizers have and play, so they started developing their own instruments. And we have various instruments, not only the cuatro, we also have the tiple, which is another smaller stringed instrument, and we have the bordonua, which is a bigger sort of guitar-like bass instrument. But the cuatro was the protagonist because it had the melodic qualities and the harmonic qualities of both violins and guitars.
Now, what do you do with this tradition? Because you're not just repeating the Jibaros, you're doing something else when you're playing with your trio. How would you describe that?
I would describe it as Latin jazz, as they say. I definitely take my folk traditions and everything that I've learned at Berklee College of Music, the jazz influences, and apply that to my music. So definitely the folky side and the jazz side mixed together with the sound of the cuatro.
Robin, what about this mixture of traditional and other kind of variations, whether it's jazz or classical? Because that's going to be reflected in the programming, right?
Yes, we actually start with Fabiola on October 5th. She gave her first solo recital in Neighborhood Arts, and we actually transition to the Casals tribute weekend with the five schools and 56 celli. And then we keep on having performances until we end in March with Soli Canto, a Pan-Latin ensemble, and Fabiola will also play, as well as Christian Figueroa tenor. So they embrace both classical and folk traditions.
And one of the things that intrigued me, because if you call Pablo Casals the godfather of the cello, where there's a godfather, there's a godson who's going to be involved. Tell me about him.
Luis Claret is the head of strings at New England Conservatory, and his father had a his family had a personal connection to Casals. He also studied with Casals' brother Enrique, and Luis and a number of other soloists through the Boston area helped us craft and curate both a solo concert and a cello ensemble concert with cellists from 8 schools and 14 professional organizations, which we just did this past Sunday.
And you have a lot of arts organizations in addition to Fabiola's group. They're going to be playing in these concerts as well down the line. I know Castle of Our Skins is one of them, I think.
Yeah, Castle of Our Skins will do the South End String Fest in March, and Ari Rivas's Voci Angelica is a trio and vocal group, will also lead the Puerto Rican songs that were commissioned for the Casals tribute for the Dorchester and Roxbury String Fest in December. So we try and keep the Puerto Rican songs going through the String Fest in our youth ensembles that we work with all the time.
Now, what's the price for admission? I mean, are some of these free at least? Or?
Most of them are free. The concert, I think in March, with Fabiola and Sole Canto, that's a fundraiser for the Massachusetts United for Puerto Rico Fund, and those are $5 tickets. So.
All right. And finally, Fabiola, we're going to bring up one clip of your performance. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the piece that you're going to hear is called Piel Canela. It's a popular song written by Puerto Rican composer Bobby Capó. Piel Canela translates to cinnamon skin.
Que se quede el infinito sin estrellas, o que pierda el ancho mar su inmensidad, pero el negro de tus ojos que no muera, y el canela de tu piel se quede igual. Si perdiera el arco iris su belleza, y las flores su perfume y su color, no sería tan inmensa mi tristeza como aquella de quedarme sin tu amor.
Robin, finally, there's so much to absorb here. People need to check it out a bit later online, so how should they do that?
You're welcome to check out our full calendar at www.celebrityseries.org.
Thank you both very much, Robin Baker and
Thank you.
Fabiola
Thank you.
Mendez.
Thank you.